Over the past 100 years, the Porcelain tribe has experienced growth, diaspora, food shortage, and intertribal tensions. But now, the elders finally have a new ideology for the settlement to follow for the next century: feudalism. With the sudden shift in ideology, the social order is expected to change. But the long-term effects of this are still uncertain for the Porcelain people, as the population anticipates what is to come. Feudalism is a social system/ideology that was prominent in Europe throughout the early Middle Ages into the 17th century. The allure of feudalism at the time came from the lack of a strong, central authority from existing monarchies, as it was simply easier for land to be carved up by lords loyal to the monarch rather than have the monarch directly manage all the land themselves. These connections didn't exactly run on friendship, however. There was a strict, interdependent hierarchy that had to remain in place for feudalism to function, presenting the most recognizable aspect of feudalism, the social pyramid. As we can see here, the monarch provides a plot of land, held in exchange for a certain fee, to a lord. This loaned estate is known as a fief, or a fiefdom. The lord, as a vassal to the monarch, in exchange provides military aid and their loyalty. Below are the soldiers, who provide military strength and homage in exchange for a living. Then come the peasants, the majority of the population, who live in serfdom, providing food and services to the soldiers and above in exchange for protection. Feudalism prides itself on simplicity, but this simplicity comes from having a smaller territory to work with. Ultimately, this can prove the downfall of feudalism, because as time passes and territory grows, managing all the interconnected ownerships and fiefs becomes incredibly tough. Along with that, the potential for internal difficulties is high. A monarch can easily abuse their power, while a group of lords can just as easily rival the power of the monarch themselves. It is for this reason that the Magna Carta exists, by the way. Despite these issues, as long as there's a ruler, soldiers, and some commoners, feudalism has seen itself appear in some form or another various times in history. The timeline ensues. It becomes apparent that many villagers will become locked into a life of serfdom, leading to some outcry due to the sudden class change, but the tribe leader, now a monarch, is adamant that things will work themselves out. The monarch presents the elders with the title of lords. To prevent having too many lords through family connections, only children born thereafter to the elders can become lords, which is still possible as most of the elders are in their 30s. Similarly, former sentries become soldiers, with any subsequent children becoming soldiers as well. While these measures are straightforward, many families have been split up due to the application of these classes. This becomes an issue, as the social order is now a far cry from the fluidity of their former tribal lifestyle. The monarch promptly intervenes, and spreads the lords out to nearby land around the main settlement, mixing different families within these fiefs to prevent any issues down the line. This turns out to be the most intervention that the monarch ends up doing for quite some time, as the social order has worked itself out and is now stabilized. The Porcelain people have a defined territory now, composed of various hunter-gatherer fiefdoms, and 50 years pass uneventfully, aside from a constant growth in population and land. Newer generations raise little questions as to their feudal lives, and internal tension is at a minimum. Food shortages are also much less of a problem nowadays, as due to being spread out in smaller communities amidst a greater territory, there's more to go around. The Copperfields people, while defensive, have no intention to invade, but they notice the growing territory of the Porcelain people and warn them not to impede on their food supply. The monarch, similarly defensive, understands that the two populations are evenly matched and a conflict would be futile. But some more food would be nice. Therefore, the monarch decides to challenge their own population, now quadrupled in size, to find a new food source. In a matter of weeks, a messenger from one of the lords in the Outer Plains informs the monarch that their peasants have recently discovered a renewable food source: wheat. The villagers have found that by grinding down wheat grains, mixing with water, and baking the mixture at a high heat, a dense, energy-rich food is produced, and by scattering leftover grains along the ground, more wheat grows. This is groundbreaking for the monarch, who immediately orders this miracle plant to be grown throughout the land. Some decades pass, and due to increased availability of food, religion becomes more established within the Porcelain society, with a number of nobles dedicating themselves to the practice and forming a subclass as a result. But the effects of agriculture have also begun to show cracks within the very leadership of the Porcelain fiefdoms. Yes, food supply has become more reliable and widespread, but now there needs to be management of grain supplies going between fiefs, along with a slurry of interdependencies and leases between lords for different resource sectors. To make things worse, the soldiers, due to a generational lack of action both in and out of their borders, have become unruly, with reports of grain hoarding near the hill range. These accounts of corruption, along with management issues amongst the lords, have made leadership a nightmare for the monarch, and they begin counting the years until their ideology can finally change to something more stable. For the peasantry, life is painfully unchanging. 5 generations have grown up in serfdom, and there is a growing dissatisfaction with their lives, especially with how the resources they work for simply end up being traded back to them. By the 100th year, the entire Porcelain Kingdom wants change, and an excitement fills the air as they can once more choose a new ideology to replace their current system. The populace scatters before the temple, singing and dancing as they access the realm of the YouTube comments section. There, the highest minds of the internet can choose an ideology for the Porcelain People to strictly follow for 100 years. The Porcelain People look to you for a new system in these trying times. So what ideological path should they take? You decide.